All right, everybody, welcome into a special edition of the College Court Report podcast. Two-man show tonight. We've got a big game on Thursday between number 5 Notre Dame and number 3 Michigan State. Ryan Scarfone joins me. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. This is a game that I've been anticipating since the off season. I'm ready to dive right into it.
And we got lucky too now being a top 5 matchup. It was one of the games we both had circled on our calendars from the start, and you got a lot of talent on both sides, and then you add in the fact that now Notre Dame has climbed up to number 5 and Michigan State's holding tight at number 3. I don't think you can ask for much more to round out the month of November, especially in the ACC Big Ten Challenge.
Exactly. And given the lineup that the ACC and Big Ten had, this is definitely the marquee game. It's amazing how successful these teams have been in the last little bit. I knew that this game would be a ranked matchup. Didn't expect it to be a number 3 versus number 5. Um, Christmas came early.
Yeah, especially with you being a Notre Dame fan and myself being a big old supporter of Sparty, just adds a little extra incentive being the fact that Notre Dame's undefeated, Michigan State's got one loss, and top 5 matchup. You can't ask for much more on a Thursday night. The cards just played out just how we'd like them, and like you said, Christmas came early, and being the Christmas season, we've been blessed with an early gift from the basketball gods.
Well, and considering, I mean, your only loss was to Duke, and they've turned out pretty well. So it's not like um, they had some bad losses. Like these are two legit good teams. They had great
Mm-hmm.
weekends in the PK and Maui tournament. You guys won. I forget. You guys were in the motion or you were in the victory
We were in victory, and
bracket.
we came out victorious.
Yeah, I was just about to say. And then obviously Notre Dame came out victorious in the Maui. So these two teams are got a lot of momentum. I'm a little nervous though because Notre Dame hasn't played in some time. They had about a week and a little bit off, maybe
Mm-hmm.
no less than that. No, they would by the time they played, they'd have a week and a little bit off. Michigan State's coming off of a pretty good win against North Carolina team, so I have a feeling this game's going to start off in Michigan State's favor, and then Notre Dame's going to come back and make a game out of it.
Yeah, I think it'll be close from the start. I mean, after Michigan State's loss to Duke by 7, they've really stepped up on defense more than anything else. I mean, they held North Carolina to sub 25% shooting, which is their lowest in school history, to close out the victory bracket, the PK 80 on Sunday. So they're coming in on a bit of a hot stretch. I mean, battle tested with wins over Connecticut, DePaul, and North Carolina and the PK 80. So I'd say everything's clicking, I think, on both ends for the Spartans in a sense. They need a little bit more offense, a bit more consistency with their shooting, but at the same time, defense wins championships, and they've been putting it together on that end for sure.
Yeah, your defense really impressed me with North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina is kind of a Joel Berry kind of show, but they
Mm-hmm.
still were able to hold them for 30-second offensive possessions. That's may not seem a long time, but that's quite a bit of time to hold a defensive structure like that. And they really impressed me with that. Their forward play is what I'm giving them obviously the edge to. Can't go wrong with Miles Bridges and Ward. They highlight a pretty, and obviously Jaron Jackson Jr. They highlight a pretty good front court. So I'm going to give them the edge, considering with Notre Dame outside of Bonzi, that's when it starts to get a little fuzzy. However, Martinez Gebin is slowly kind of becoming a good complement to Bonzi. And then a couple bench players are starting to step up, not in a big way that you would hope. John Mooney, he's starting
Mm-hmm.
to contribute. He's more of a kind of a grab your rebound kind of guy, starting to produce more on offense. But I'd like to see him get more production. But again, that Wichita State game, that was pretty much just your starting five. I mean, the bench accounted for 4 points, John Mooney with 2 points, and DJ Harvey with 2. So glad they pulled out the win and they showed their grit and coming back from adversity. But at the same time, uh, didn't like the depth that they showed compared to Michigan State, who shows pretty good depth.
Yeah, I think Michigan State across the board, like you said, Michigan State gets the edge in forwards, and I'd put their forwards up against anybody in the NCAA. So you've got Bridges, Ward, Jaron Jackson. Then on the bench, you're going to have Tillman. You're going to have Schilling, Ben Carter, guys that may not produce a whole lot on both ends, but they have experience. And Tillman, he's just a big body inside. I mean, he's a freshman, but I think he's like 6'8", 240, 260, something like that. He takes up a ton of space inside, and he'll give you a good 6 points and a few rebounds a game in limited minutes. So if you need to get a guy a rest, bring Tillman in. And then at one point against DePaul, I think it was, they went with Bridges. No, not Bridges, sorry. Ward, Jackson, and Tillman. They had 3 forwards on the floor, and they didn't skip a beat. And if you have that many bodies, that many big bodies who can play big minutes and produce, you're going to cause fits for your opponents. And I think after Bonzi, you don't really have a lot of guys who have proven themselves against upper echelon competition like Michigan State will provide the Irish. I think Gebbin, he has made strides this year early on, and he had that big inbounds play against Wichita State at the end and hit those 2 clutch free throws. But I don't think they've seen forwards in a rotation like Michigan State, and I think that's going to cause them fits all day, all night in the inside.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Wichita State was a pretty guard heavy team. Very they exceeded my expectations. I didn't really know how well they were going to be. They were ranked pretty high at the beginning. Some people said they might have, there's a case for them being number 1. But they were a pretty good team. I didn't think that I didn't think the game was going to turn out the way it did. But in terms of Notre Dame, I give the edge maybe in guard play. Just, can't go wrong with Matty Farrell. He's been outstanding. He's averaging 17.5 points per game, 4.3 assists per game, 2.3 rebounds per game. But what he shows is he's that senior veteran leader who kind of calms the waters, and he's their guy. Like, but beyond Colson, he's their guy. And when the ball's in his hands, good things happen. So I give the edge in terms of guard play. TJ Gibbs, Rex Pfluger, they provide good additions to the backcourt. TJ Gibbs is starting to really come out of his own from dropping all that weight in the summer. Been shooting the lights out. And just overall, I mean, Notre Dame has been shooting 52.8% from field goal range compared to Michigan State's 50.4, so pretty even. So I'm going to give the edge a little bit to the guard play just because of Notre Dame's experience, but definitely the front court is going to Michigan State.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth too. I'd give the edge to Notre Dame and guards just slightly just based on experience alone. In terms of production, I'd probably take Winston a little bit more than Farrell, just because he's putting about 7 assists a game, and he can score as well. I mean, he was the MVP of the victory bracket at the PK 80 for a reason. So, but Joe, just based on experience, you got to give the edge to Farrell and Notre Dame, because in big games like this, you want to draw on those guys that have that veteran experience who have played 4 years in college, and they know what it takes to win at a high level, and they are a bit of a steadying force on the back end when things get rocky. If the Spartans went on a bit of a run, Farrell's the type of guy that can calm the team down and get them back to playing their game. And I don't know if the Spartans have that kind of experience on the back end outside of Tum Tum Nairn, but I think across the board it is pretty even with Winston, Langford, Tum Tum, Matt McQuaid, who was my underrated guy coming into the season for the Spartans, and he put up a career high um, against DePaul, the PK 80. So, and then you've got Pfluger, Gibbs, Farrell, and company on Notre Dame side. So it is pretty even, I think, across the board. They both have a solid rotation, but yeah, I got to agree with you. Give the edge, albeit a slight one, to Notre Dame with Matty Farrell leading the way.
I think with a guy like Rex Pfluger, I mean, he did provide, like, he did, you know, he recorded the last steal of the game, the most
Mm-hmm.
important steal of the game, so that Shamat wouldn't. Is it Shamat or Shamit? I'm
Shamit.
gonna go with Shamit, so that Shamit couldn't get a shot off. Um, he's a really good defensive player. He
Mm-hmm.
does a lot of stuff that doesn't really show up on the stat sheet. Um, Mike Bray at the beginning of the season said he's going to be more of an offensive factor. In a game like this, I think he needs to be more of an offensive factor.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I mean, you know what you're going to get with Farrell. You know what you're going to get with Bonzi. Gibbs, you assume just on what he's been doing, you know what you're going to get from him. Pfluger's definitely got to start showing up more on the stat sheet, just, not just for this game, but especially for a game like this. And then you definitely hope that DJ Harvey, regardless of how big this game is, and he is a true freshman, can provide some depth. But with Notre Dame, the thing that I like about them is, like I said, their grit, their
Mm-hmm.
toughness, they they don't get down on themselves. They, you know, even if Michigan State does get on a run, they can calm the waters, get back into it. A couple times they ran into that with Michigan State, and when they were down 3 with 13 seconds left, and Bonzi Colson had missed the 3, any other team would have been done. They would have been, that's it. But Matty Farrell comes out with a steal. Bonzi hits the 2. Then they're right back in it. So I like Notre Dame's ability to come back and be resilient in tough situations, which will help them definitely in a game like this and in ACC tournament play, ACC play, and in March Madness.
Yeah, Rex Pfluger is one of those guys who he's not flashy, but he does a little bit of everything that maybe won't grab the headlines. But he's a guy that every coach would want to have on their team. Like he works hard on both ends. Doesn't he leaves it all on the court every night, and people say he's a glue guy for the team, and I'd agree to that. I mean, he's a steadying force like Farrell. He can come in, he can provide a spark on defense, and he has shown that he can contribute a bit on offense as well. So I think they need a big game from him. They need a big game from Harvey, provide a big spark off the bench. And when those starters go for a rest, they need to get production from their bench. They can't afford to get 4 points against a team like Michigan State from their bench play because they'll just roll right over them.
Well, I mean,
And I'll
you got to
say I'll
give.
say that without any hesitation.
I mean, you got to give a guy like Matt Farrell and Bonzi Colson rest, or else they could
Mm-hmm.
start getting into some foul trouble. And your guys like DJ Harvey, John Mooney, Elijah Burns, they got to really step up, because you can't leave these guys in. And I could see even Mike Bray turning to a guy like Austin Torres, who not the best player. He's a big player, so to give some rest to guys like Gebbin and Bonzi, um, just get a big body and get some rebounds. Give Farrell the ball. Give Gibbs the ball. Whoever's in, just rebound. Be that big guy, and so that
Mm-hmm.
we can get rest and get them back in there.
And in a game like this, it's going to be physical inside with the amount of talented forwards, the amount of bigs that both teams have. It's going to be physical inside. You can't ride a guy like Bonzi for 38 minutes in a game like this. It's
Mm.
not it's not possible. And I mean, when Bonzi's on the bench, you know that Farrell's going to be on. If Farrell's on the bench, Bonzi's going to be on. They're both not going to be off the court at the same time. So you need guys to step up in both spots when one guy goes for a rest on the bench for maybe 2-3 minutes. You need one of these other guys to step up, and that's what worries me about Notre Dame a bit is their depth really hasn't been tested this year. It hasn't really proven that they can step up in big game situations. Like you said, against Wichita State, they rode their starting five for most of that game. And if one of their main guys gets in foul trouble early, who does Bray turn to? He doesn't really have that proven sixth man or seventh man to come off the bench and really step in and play a big role and play big minutes. So I think for Michigan State, I think the goal is to kind of attack right away and try and get these guys in foul trouble early, pick up 2 early fouls, send Bonzi or Matt to the bench within the first 10 minutes of the game and build a lead and see if Notre Dame can be resilient again and see if lightning strikes twice. I mean, they did it against Wichita State. See if they can do it again against Sparty.
I think if you're Michigan State, you're wanting Bonzi to play his inside game because we know how well the Michigan State forwards are.
Mm-hmm.
You want him to play his inside game because even at LSU, regardless of how much they beat him by, they start with their big guys. They started to kind of take Bonzi out of it and started to make him shoot the ball. Bonzi wasn't really getting anything inside, so you kind of try to force him to go inside. Don't foul and maybe draw some offensive fouls on him because we know that Bonzi's a capable shooter. He's starting to get better from three. He likes to hit his mid-range shots from the elbow. So I would try to force him inside, and even if you want, not double team him, but try to take him out in terms of force the ball to Gavin, who while he is big, not as obviously good as the guys in the front court for State or even Bonzi Colson. Force it into an experienced Gavin, who's starting to come into his own, but that's what I would do. And then if you're Michigan State, got to press up on Notre Dame. Make sure that you got to force them to shoot shots like they did with North Carolina that are unbalanced, that are kind of shots that are forced. Can't let them get into a routine because Notre Dame can be deadly from three if they get going.
Yeah, I think that's the same for both teams. I think you got to force the guards to hit their shots, got to take away the inside game on both ends and make the guards hit their shots. And with Michigan State kind of wearing that shot clock down to the last few seconds and making the Irish take shots that are maybe 2 seconds away from a shot clock violation, kind of late in the shot clock. Maybe not the look that they want to take. And I mean, yeah, if they hit one, you can't really do much more than that on defense if you force them into a last second shot. That's like a Hail Mary in a sense. And if they hit it, great. I mean, you played great defense. I mean, you're going to hit those shots here and there. But I mean, if you're forcing them 28, 29 seconds into a shot clock before they get a shot off, you're doing something right. And chances are those bounces are going to fall in your favor more often than not. I think Notre Dame's got to do the same. They got to find a way to make Winston, McQuaid, Langford, Bridges hit their shots from outside and take them away from the paint. And same with Jackson, get him outside. I mean, he's shown that he can shoot the three too, but obviously they're not as comfortable outside as they are inside. And Jaron and Bridges and Ward's going to anchor the post. And I mean, good luck moving him out of the way. I don't care who you are. He's a big body and he's going to plant himself by that basket and go to town. But
yeah,
both teams have to force each other to shoot their shot from outside and kind of make them earn their points from the 3-point line or mid-range jumpers as opposed to having their way inside.
I mean, I don't really know how many times or if really they do. I don't think I've really seen a lot of zone defenses from Notre Dame. I think I saw maybe a little bit in the Maui tournament, but given how good the forwards are on State, I would even suggest maybe go into that 3-2, 2-3 zone, forcing, like you said, the guys to hit their shots. Like, yeah, sure, if they might get some open looks and they might hit them, but you got to do something in terms of that forward play. I mean, Bridges, Nick Ward, Jaren Jackson Jr., they'll eat them up in the inside. that's what maybe my suggestion is. Hopefully, Mike Bray can take that and use that for his game plan. But this is going to be a tricky game for Notre Dame. The Wichita was definitely a big test, but this is obviously a bigger test. Um, it'll kind of it'll show a lot of where the Irish are at. And we thought we saw a lot for them with Wichita. This will really show where they are in terms of the better competition.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting.
I wouldn't say necessarily better competition. It's different competition because, like you said at the start, the Shockers are a guard heavy team, and Michigan State is heavy at forward. So it's a different battle altogether. But when the Spartans played Duke, Duke relied on that 2-3 zone. And for the majority of the first half, Michigan State couldn't figure out how to break it. And once they finally found their rhythm and they finally figured out ways to get around it and whatnot. But for the start, like it caused them a lot of issues. And I think if Notre Dame kind of goes back to that, it could lead to the same thing. It could lead to some cold stretches for the Spartans on offense and force them to hit threes. And luckily, towards the end of the PK80, the guys stepped up like Langford and Winston McQuaid showed that they can hit threes in big moments. And but I think you got to force the guys to hit their shots and maybe don't go to the 2-3 zone the whole game, but switch it up here and there at a timeouts, come with different looks, and keep Izzo on his toes with his offensive rotations and see how they adjust going forward.
Absolutely. And if you're like Notre Dame, you see how well kind of it did work for Duke and the turnovers that they were able to force. So definitely work the zone defense game within their game plan.
Yeah, kind of roll with it here and there, like out of timeouts or switch it up, go to full court press, go to half court press, go to 2-3 zone. Just kind of keep Michigan State on their toes. And I think for Michigan State on defense, they just got to be active like they were against North Carolina. They got to just be quick, be agile, keep guys on their toes, just follow the ball and be right up on them in a sense, and don't allow them to get those shots off. And just they need to stick maybe Bridges or Jaron Jackson to Bonzi like glue, like white on rice. Just be on him the whole time and don't let him get comfortable inside and throw him off his personal game and see who steps up in a secondary role and takes on a leading role and maybe the option of Bonzi isn't there inside.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like what I said. Maybe let Bonzi, don't let him shoot his shot because he's capable of making that, but kind of let him play
Mm-hmm.
his inside game. They've got the height advantage over him at 6'5". So let him try to play his game, um,
Mm-hmm.
and see if they're able to block some shots, throw them off balance, because we know that it did work a little bit for LSU, um, until he started hitting his shots, and they couldn't defend it. Um, but yeah, and then press up, D up on the guards, try to let them
Mm-hmm.
hit their shots because we know that Notre Dame can go cold for as many shots as they make. For how good of a shooting team they are, they can go cold for a little bit. We saw that at the beginning of the Wichita State game. So kind of try to get them off balance, long
Mm-hmm.
defensive possessions. So I think that's the way for the Spartans to go.
I think regardless of what happens, I think we're in for a great game from start to finish. Um, Prediction wise and your player of the game, who do you have winning, score, and who's your player of the game?
So regardless of who I cover and regardless of my fandom, I'm gonna have to say I'm as a member of the media, I'm gonna have to be impartial in situations like this,
Mm-hmm.
and not let my heart or my fandom dictate who I pick. But I will go with Michigan State. I just think that they've been really tested. They've been in big games already. They lost to Duke. They beat some good competition, the PK80, beat North Carolina pretty favorably. Great forward play, great guard play. They got great depth that I think that they can start to tire the Irish out. That defense is potent. I'm going to take Michigan State. I'm going to take them 75 to 68.
Okay.
And my player of the game is going to be. I'm going to go with Nick Ward.
Okay. Double machine inside. Probably flirt with one again. Probably go. I'm gonna say like 14-9 or something like that.
Yep.
Personal bias aside, again, I'm same as you, but Michigan State. I think they just have too many options. They have too many bodies they can roll out, give different looks and just depth and experience in college basketball. The things you can't teach, and I think they have probably one of the deepest rosters in the country when they're all healthy. You just have so many guys that can roll off and give you different looks, and it's probably one of Izzo's best teams, if not the best team he's had in his time at Michigan State. I'm going to go 77-71 for Michigan State. I think it'll be close down to the wire. It'll come down to the last minute, then they'll hit their free throws to kind of seal the deal and pull away and capitalize on a couple desperation threes from Notre Dame and pull away for a 6-point win. I'm going to go with Cassius Winston, player of the game as well, fresh off of his MVP at PK 80. I think he's clicking on all cylinders. He can score, he can facilitate the offense. He's becoming more of a leader with each passing game. If he can cut down on the turnovers a bit, I can see him going for like a team high, like 19 points, maybe 7 assists and a couple of rebounds just to boot. But no, I think regardless of who wins, I think Thursday night, as they say, 7 o'clock Eastern time, that's appointment television. You better sit down. If you're American anyways, you can watch the game on TV. If you're Canadian like us, you got to go different avenues to find that game. But that's another story for another day.
Streaming's for.
That's what online streaming's for. Heaven forbid watch ESPN works in Canada. You pay for a subscription, you can't watch it on ESPN. So it's a nightmare.
First world problems.
But enjoy the game on Thursday night. It'll be one of the best games, I think, of the season. It'll be definitely have the feel of like a regional final, like an Elite Eight game come March Madness time, maybe even a Final Four. But you can guarantee you'll see both of these teams in the field, probably making deep runs come March Madness. And this will be a great test to see where both teams stand up among the elite teams in the country as the season moves along.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I've been waiting for this game for a while. No matter how, what the outcome is, we're in for a treat. Who says March Madness was the only part of the season with the great games? I mean, we've got top 5 matchup right here. Couldn't ask for anything better.
Second top 5 matchup in as many weeks for Michigan State. So Izzo's always known for scheduling tough, and here's another perfect example of a tough 2 weeks that he gives his team, and they could come out very well with only one loss. So we'll see how she unfolds.
And this isn't a knock to Notre Dame. Just that Wichita State game was a good kind of indicator of what the Irish are capable of doing, where the Irish are at. But I think this will show where they're at. I'm not yet convinced that they are a top 5 team, even though they are ranked number 5. I'm not yet convinced that they're ready to be a part of the group of Duke, Kansas, Michigan State, Villanova. So we'll see how that goes. But grab your popcorn. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and be sure to head over to College Court Report when the game is done as well. We'll have post-game coverage from both angles, from both the Irish and Sparty. But with that, enjoy the game on Thursday. We will break it all down for you, but enjoy, and we'll chat with you next week. Cheers.
Have a good one.